Hello everybody, I'm back! And good lord, talk about a mess of a break. I got a new art tablet, so that was cool, and it was my birthday, so that was also cool. I probably should have said that first. I was planning to start HoundClan Year 2 on my new tablet after I visited my family for said birthday, but my car broke down in the middle of the highway, and I ended up hunkering down in some coffee shop in the middle of nowhere until my dad could pick me up. My car's okay now, thankfully. She's running well again, not 100%, but she was strong enough to get me home. And it only took taking her apart and putting her back together 2 times. But it was nice to see family, and it gave me plenty of time to finish the speed paints for this video. I will apologize ahead of time because the first few StarClan drawings were made in the coffee shop right after I got towed there. I was so out of it I didn't realize I had my iPad vertical and not horizontal. I figured it out eventually. Anyways, with that out of the way, welcome back to Hound Clan. We're back with year 2, and oh boy, this one was a doozy. There was a lot that happened this year, and while I wasn't sure where to start considering this clan continues to be a bucket full of drama, I think I finally figured it out, and now we're ready to see where this year goes. Be ready, because first we're starting with the new cats in StarClan. Sadly, we're starting off with our first kit and apprentice death, with the bullying Plover kit and the loyal Russet Paw. Or, as you might have noticed already, Ploverwing and Russet Dawn, which were name suggestions from Kendra Corbridge 6118. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. They came up with a lot of suggestions, and I will mention when I used some of them, because I believe all of the name suggestions I picked were from them this year. There's a reason for them having warrior names, but first let's hear their stories, starting with Plover Kit. Unfortunately, wasting disease was the cause of death, right before her apprentice ceremony. As I mentioned in year 1, Plover Kit is oddly observant and was aware she was sick, but I don't think Burnett Shade ever explained to her just how fatal it was. But the kit was always an observant one, so when Burnett Shade started prepping for the inevitable, Plover noticed. And while she's an observant kid, I don't think she quite understood what going to StarClan meant. She was confused and asked her mom why she had to go away. Did she do something wrong? Why didn't she get to stay and become a warrior like her siblings? If she had to go, could she at least become a warrior before she left? Burnett Shade tried her best to grant this last wish, but Hushstar refused. He said it was a waste of time. Thankfully, our current deputy was much more understanding and carried out a quiet ceremony with just family. Ploverkit died as Ploverwing and felt a little more at ease in StarClan. She's been thriving there, actually. Although she's the youngest cat, they give her any warrior duty she wants and pretend battle with her all the time, guiding her as time goes on. Stumpy Clash especially seemed to have taken her under his wing, which I was surprised by. This may be why Cliff Dazzle was looking at her with malice from the Dark Forest, which, excuse me, you leave this poor baby alone. But even with all of that, she was still a little lonely, being the only young cat in StarClan, which was why she was drawn here with Russet Dawn. After the roller coaster that was her first few months in the clan, things started looking up for the little kit. Furflame adopted her and spoiled her with love and attention, even after she became an apprentice. Russet Paw knew the other apprentices found it annoying when their parents acted like that, but after being abandoned and then losing her first adopted mom, she loved it. She loved her mother and adoptive siblings with all her might. They eased her grief and allowed her to have an actual childhood while she still could. She was apprenticed to Cosmos Fern, who was very happy to teach his quasi-niece. Unfortunately, only a few moons before she became a warrior, one of the kits snuck out of camp, and Russet Dawn found them just in time to save them from a venomous snake. She killed it, but she got bitten and succumbed to the poison before help could arrive. She was heartbroken. Thankfully, Tadpole Stripe and Ploverwing were there to ease her pain. Her adoptive mother's mate was another parent she could rely on, and Ploverwing's stubborn optimism helped cheer her up over time. I'm pretty sure it was Ploverwing who chose her warrior name, and when Russet Paw was unsure, Ploverwing was probably like, "You killed the snake and saved a kit, that's worth a warrior's name, so you're getting one." She was shocked to find out Cliff Dazzle was in the Dark Forest, but she tries not to dwell on it much. Cliff Dazzle died so soon after bringing her to the clan that she barely remembered her. It was Furflame in the clan that raised her, but even then she sometimes wishes things were different. When she's not spending time with her StarClan companions, she's watching over her siblings, copying their battle moves and purring with pride at their accomplishments. I think she also helped Furflame a lot with her struggles this year, and at the end of the year is feeling very protective over her family. She knows what the future might hold and is worried for their safety, but she also knows how strong they are. No matter what happens, she'll be here for her family, even if they don't know it. Our next death is the Strict Olive Blaze. Another Kendra Corbridge suggestion, so thank you very much. His good year turned into a bad one pretty quickly. He lost his father's favoritism when Hushpaw started showing some huge leaps in progress and quickly began outpacing Olivepaw in everything. At first, Olivepaw was angry, but then it quickly melted into sadness. He couldn't regain his father's favoritism, and he'd already alienated himself with the other apprentices his age, so there was nobody he could really talk to about these feelings. He often wandered and sometimes even disappeared for a few days, and wondered if his father would care if he vanished. Thankfully, his mentor was there for him and listened and encouraged him when nobody else would. When he had a weird idea for how to catch ground squirrels or something similar, he was encouraged instead of insulted. It made Olivepaw feel bad about how bratty he'd been in his younger moons, but Willowthrift just encouraged him to apologize and make up for such behavior, not just with him, but with the apprentices as well. He was even becoming actual friends with Hashfox. He did try to apologize to his brother, but he didn't forgive him and claimed that Olivepaw was just jealous that Hushpaw was better than him now. It hurt, but Willowthrift was quick to point out he's not owed forgiveness. He decided to work on bettering himself and becoming a cat he could be proud of, a decision that helped ease the pain of gaining his warrior name a few moons after his brother. I was really proud of him in his progress, but unfortunately he was killed by rogues on a solo patrol. He felt cheated. He was finally opening his eyes and becoming his own cat, and his life ended before it could go anywhere. He's even more heartbroken now that he shares StarClan's knowledge of everything. Firebloom told him the truth about his father's past, and he himself discovered what his brother has been up to. Olive Blaze feels hurt and furious and scared all at once. He doesn't want the people he cares about to get hurt. The determination gifted him the power of prophecy, which he gifted to one of the medicine cats. But you'll have to hear about that more in a little bit. Also, if you're wondering where he got the feathers from, he gave them to himself, which I thought was really adorable and also kind of sad. Our last death this year is a big one in terms of impact, because our final StarClan cat is the Righteous Twigleaf, and she was murdered. Another name suggestion by Kendra Cobridge, so thank you very much. Her body was found by the Root Clan border, and her death was the catalyst for the end of this year. I felt really awful for her. She was only a warrior for a moon before she was killed. She ended up being mentored by the new deputy, who I won't name yet for reasons, and was really anxious about becoming a warrior. Thankfully, their mentor was in the same boat, and they were able to learn together. She was also a moral compass for her mentor, as her kind heart meant she wouldn't do things she didn't believe in. Her favorite patrol was when she ran into a porcupine, and she was absolutely fascinated. She thought its spikes were cool and scary at the same time, but also found it pretty funny that it sounded like a newborn kit. She trained super hard, and every failure made her work harder, but she never lost her kindness. At her warrior ceremony, she was honored for her ingenuity, and was super excited for her future, only to die right after. She spent the last moon grooming herself a lot. I think it's because she has no idea how to really process what happened to her. She's no stranger to death. Her baby sister is also in StarClan, but to be murdered by someone she knew? It hurts a lot. She's trying to move past it, but she still needs more time. She's glad Russet Dawn is there to keep her sister company until she could find the strength to face her future in StarClan. As for her murderer, she was killed before she could see who did it, but in StarClan she knows exactly who it was. And so do I. But more on that later. That's the end of the StarClan cats, but we're not moving on to the main clan just yet because we have some exiles. Hushstar had some statuses this year about thinking about exiling elders, and I decided to run with that based on what he's going through this year, which I will explain in due time. So far he's forced 2, technically 3, cats to leave the clan. One of them you may already know if you also watch Rebel Clan's videos, which, if you don't, is a clan in the same universe. It's Partridge Snap. This poor guy has had a pretty rough year, even before the exile. Though he was resistant to retiring for so long, he couldn't ignore the aches or pains any longer, and ended up retiring at the beginning of year 2. I think retirement wasn't as relaxing as he hoped, because Hushstar sees elders as useless mouths to feed. He tried to patrol and hunt every now and then, but he could only go so far before he lost what little strength he had. Whenever Hushstar or one of his supporters were nearby, he would be subjected to constant sneers and glares. Even in the Elder's Den, there was no chance to relax. All the other elders were dead, and Doveprance was working hard to be useful as a mediator, which meant Partridge Snap was all alone with only the faint sense of his old friends now in StarClan. That only made him more sad. Thankfully, the kids and some of the older cats, including Furflame and Twigkit, were happy to listen to his stories. But it didn't last long, as Hushstar decided he has no use for cats who did nothing, and exiled him in the 7th moon of the year. He was shocked and heartbroken, but he had no choice but to leave. He thought about joining Root Clan or Mist Clan, but would they accept a cat from their hated enemy? He decided to go even further and try to find somewhere safe, far from Hound Clan's influence. And he would have died in the snow if Rebel Clan hadn't found him. He was shocked to see Dashnudge, Hushstar's eldest son and Partridge Snap's own apprentice, who he thought died in the flames. He's relieved to be somewhere safe and glad that Dashnudge is alive and thriving, in a new clan filled with kind-hearted cats and a gentle, loving leader in Peachstar. But it only makes him dread for the future. What would happen if Hound Clan heard of Rebel Clan, or if Hushstar found out the son that betrayed him was alive? He's done his best to warn them about the brutality of Hound Clan, and has suggested they seek out Root Clan and Mist Clan for allies, and Peachstar granted him a spot in Rebel Clan as an elder in return. It's such whiplash for him after the cruelty of Hushstar, and he wants to relax and enjoy it, but he knows there's no way he can until he knows his old clan won't destroy the peace of the other three. At least the Elder's Den isn't empty here, and he can entertain all the kits with silly stories. It's a great distraction from the looming threats ahead. Next up is none other than our elder-turned-mediator, Doveprance, and her son, Beamfog. She spent the first half of the year in the nursery with her and Flower Patch's single kit. Despite her gloomy nature, she was quite happy to be a mother, and very proud of her hard-working kit. Once he was apprenticed, she spent most of her time in the medicine den, even though they didn't really need the help most of the time. She just wanted to see her mate. And the other chunk of her time was spent attempting to be a mediator, and I use attempting very much on purpose. Since the other clans don't interact with them outside of border clashes, the only cats to mediate were in her clan. But it wasn't relationships, it was Hushstar supporters versus cats who didn't support him, and neither side could get along no matter what she tried. She was left questioning herself a lot. Even if Flower Patch and Beamfog said she was good at it, was she really? Had she made the right choice? As of right now, she doesn't think so, because Hushstar singled her out after exiling Partridge Snap. She begged him not to exile her, that she wasn't an elder, she was a mediator, she wasn't useless. And that worked, until Twigleaf's murder. Hushstar ordered her to mediate between them and Root Clan, an impossible task from the very beginning, and when she failed, he used that as the perfect excuse to exile her. Before she was forced out, she begged Flower Patch to come with her, but her mate just looked away and said nothing. Heartbroken, she let herself be cast out. She spent the last moons wandering by the borders of the Hound Clan forest, desperately missing her old home, but too scared and heartbroken to go back to it. That's where Beamfog comes in. The little kid's life was a pretty posh one at the beginning. He was the son of Flower Patch, one of Hushstar's closest allies, which meant he had the respect others had to fight for from the second he was born. He adored his two mothers and spent a lot of time with both of them in the medicine den and followed them everywhere. Despite this, he still wanted to be a warrior. He was a play fighter, but always fought a little too rough, which Hushstar obviously approved of. He was apprenticed to a new member of the clan and a fellow Hushstar supporter, Plumeria. He learned all that he could and trained extra hard. He did have a few odd dreams of strange red-tinted forests and a vicious ginger cat watching him, but he never saw them as anything more than nightmares. He was also a bit of a brat, which led to him getting into arguments with the other apprentices, until an encounter with a rogue who was very unimpressed by his boasting hurt his ego and knocked some sense into him. He started actually getting along with others his age, and the more annoyed adults even started to warm up to him. He had quite the sharp mind too, and came up with plans that got them prey even during the harshest days of Leaf Bear. He gained his warrior name, and life was looking pretty good. Until one of his friends, Twigleaf, was murdered, and his mother was exiled for failing an impossible task. Any faith he had in Hushstar that day was shattered, and his faith in his mother, Flower Patch, was as well when she turned her back on her mate. He yelled at her and asked if Hushstar's stupid rules really mattered more than her family. He went out on solo patrols, hoping for even a sight of his mother, and then stumbled upon a dying loner. He tried to call for help, but they bled out before he could save them. In that moment, all he could imagine was Doveprance, his mother, in the same position. He didn't even go back to the clan to say goodbye. He just left. He found his mother a little later, and together they left to search for safety. He promised her that they'd keep each other safe. They'd make themselves a true home, and HoundClan could eat mouse dung for all he cared. All that mattered was that they had each other. Yeah, things are already crazy, as they always are with this clan. We're not even in an actual clan yet, and I've already mentioned murder and war. Don't worry, we'll get into that some more, especially starting with the first cat of HoundClan. You know him, you loathe him, Hushstar. This boy has had a hell of a year, which is crazy because he hasn't really done anything. Why, you may ask? Because he was attacked by dogs 3 times. Every time he recovered, he was attacked by another one and back in the medicine den. Like, the statuses were one after the other every time I updated to a new moon. Considering how much of his year was spent in the medicine den, I'm gonna say he spent a lot of it either unconscious or delirious, while his deputy, who was forced into the position, I may add, did most of the work. He still did some ceremonies and stuff, and after Twigleaf's murder, he definitely took a closer look at the clan, but the rest of the year he hasn't really been able to do much. Instead of focusing on the clan, he's been tormented by his own paranoia. He only has one life after all. In his mind, being attacked by dogs, hounds, over and over again can only mean one thing. The old clanmates who died in the coup are seeking their vengeance. They're trying to destroy him and take the power he fought and killed for. The infections in his injury didn't help either, and led to even more terrible dreams and hallucinations. He started getting paranoid and doubting the loyalty of every single member of his clan, including his own children. All of Blaze's failures weren't just mistakes, but signs he didn't care. He always knew he shouldn't have trusted him. He looked too much like Dash Nudge to begin with. And Dove Prince? Well, her struggles were her own attempts to take down his clan. Everything's a plot against him, which is why he didn't care about exiling the elders or the death of his own son. The only reason he even cares about Twigleaf's death at all is because it's an opportunity to destroy Root Clan, one of his two hated enemies. He knows they have something to do with it. They have to. They hate Hound Clan, and this is a plan to take them down. If he can kill them first, they'll never get a chance. He's ready for all-out war, and is planning to ambush the clan at the beginning of the 3rd year. He doesn't care if his leg is permanently weak from rushing through his recovery. He doesn't care about any collateral damage, as long as he can wage this war and take care of Root Clan once and for all. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, who is the poor cat who is stuck running the clan while Hushstar gets attacked by dogs and plots murders? Well, it's none other than Brown Rapid. I will admit, this is a bit of meddling on my part. After Cliff Dazzle died and we didn't have a deputy, I figured that with how paranoid Hushstar is, he would only choose someone he trusted, and the only one with a huge amount of trust in the relationship tabs was Brown Rapid. I think this was a mix of a few things. There's the fact he sees them as sort of a surrogate daughter since they were just a kid and yet still escaped the forest fire unscathed. There was the fact that their trusted medicine cat, Flower Patch, was their mentor. And there's also the fact that she was a medicine cat, aka someone who initially would have no fighting skills to challenge him with. A perfect deputy that he doesn't have to worry about, so she was shoved into the position. I think from now on, I will let the game do it, but this was just too much drama to not let it happen. I had to do it. At first, she was a mess. She had no idea how to fight, she had no idea how to make patrols, she didn't even know how to hunt. And to top it all off, she was given an apprentice only a few moons later. She would probably have fallen apart if it wasn't for the support of Furflame, her old apprentice Tigersaur, her new apprentice Twigpaw, and her mate Hazelstorm. Twigpaw especially. When Hushstar would pressure her to do something cruel, like Clipdazzle and Stumpyclash used to do, her loudmouth apprentice would refuse to help and remind Brown Rapid of her own morals as well. Hazelstorm was also a big help. He gave her one-on-one sessions to teach her battle moves and hunting and catch her up as quick as possible. It's why they started to fall in love. She's also, on her own, figured out she has a bit of a strict side. She's had to snap at her patrols twice to stop arguing and do their stardamn jobs, which I think is funny, because the cats who were telling her she should be more strict were the ones she yelled at. She's settled into the role a lot better, but still feels overworked. Considering she was the one running the entire clan while Hushstar was out of commission, I can understand why. Hazelstorm was the one who helped her find her playful side again, bouncing and chasing fireflies as they chased after each other on their secret nightly patrols. She also welcomed a loner named Katie into the clan, and may or may not be shipping them with Tigersaur. Unfortunately, it hasn't always been good. The loss of her apprentice broke her heart, as did the exile of the elders. Despite being deputy, Hushstar's word is still law, and she's too terrified to confront him directly. She can't even mourn properly. Now that he's back on his paws and preparing for war, he's constantly demanding things from her. The only time she finds peace is with Hazelstorm in the nursery, with her two adopted kits, Cricket Kit and Fickle Kit. Speaking of the righteous Hazelstorm, thanks again to Kendra Cobridge for the name suggestion. He's a full warrior now, and is extremely protective of his mate and kits. He and his siblings have had a rough year for reasons I'll get into later, but there was some good. Obviously he has a mate and kids now, but he's also got an apprentice and was very happy to be a mentor. Unfortunately, there's not much besides that. They've had it tough, but they've had each other to rely on. I think that's why he gravitated towards Brown Rapid in the first place. Not only did she help his brother, Tigersaur, feel safe and comfortable as a medicine cat, but she was also alone. She had no one to turn to, at least not associated with Hushstar, and he heard the stories. She lost her family in the fire. She had no one. So what started out as just helping someone out turned into a friendship, and then into love. Then, after they adopted their kids, they had a family. It reminded him of his father, Tadpole Stripe, who died keeping them a secret, and his mother, Furflame, who fought against Hushstar for them. He realized that he would do anything for his little family. He'll fight any battle for them. He'll stand by Brown Rapid's sides, their kits protectively between them, and weather the storm that is Hushstar. Unfortunately, he knows it's too late to avoid war. Beamfog's escape means that Hushstar's followers are watching the dissenters around the clock, and he and Brown Rapid know that trying to run with 2 kits would be a death sentence. They have no choice but to face the war and hope they come out of it on the other side. He's furious with this situation, and while he hates the idea of war, he hopes that, if anything, it'll lead to at least one thing: Hushstar's demise. He's tired of watching his family get hurt because of a madman. He just wants cats to be safe, and if Root Clan can't take care of that tyrant, then maybe he will. Flower Patch is next, and as you probably already know, she's also had an awful year. On the outside, she seems as confident and as stern as ever, but the truth is she's absolutely shattered. She had a family, she had love, and it vanished in an instant. And what did she do? Nothing. She was too afraid of her own past actions, too afraid of Hushstar, to do anything. She feels like she's in too deep to go back now. She's done so many terrible things. Her dreams are filled with dark forests and whispers of cats. StarClan hasn't spoken to her since she was an apprentice. Surely that showed it was too late for her. It was one thing to think it herself, however, and another thing for her own son to call her out for being a coward. Still, even when he yelled at her, even when he ran away, she couldn't bring herself to leave. Until one night, her dreams were suddenly filled with a starry night sky. She awoke to find Olive Blaze staring at her. He was firm but harsh. He told her that she always has the opportunity to change, to be better, but she won't allow herself to do that. He told her that she needs to realize she can't let fear hold her back anymore, lest she loses even more than she already has. Flower Patch asked how she could do that under a leader like Hushstar, to which he pointed out that he himself did, and so did Furflame and Beamfog. He told her he knew it wasn't that simple, especially in her situation, but doing something was better than doing nothing. Flower Patch, for the first time in ages, felt hope, and thanked him for his advice. But before she woke up, flames suddenly rose up in front of them both. Olive Blaze turned to her and, in a voice of 1,000 cats, declared, "The roaring flame must not be hushed." Then she woke up. In the final moon of the year, as the battle draws near, she finds herself dealing with her own battle, a battle of courage and will, all while she tries to understand what this prophecy could mean for the future of Hound Clan. Burnett Shade and the Righteous Conquer Skipper next, and surprise, surprise, their year is awful too! That's why I combined them, because they've had to share all the same tragedies this year. Also, before I forget, this was another Kindra Cobridge name, so thank you very much for Conquer Skip. Back to tragedies. Firstly, their loss of Ploverwing was heartbreaking for them both. Even though Burnett Shade knew and prepared her kits for the possibility, the death still hurt a lot. Because of it, Conquer Skip and Twigleaf became even closer to each other. They weren't just siblings, they were best friends. So when Twigleaf died, it was even worse. Burnett Shade lost 2 kids in the span of a year, and Conquer Skip lost both his sisters in the same amount of time. The heartbreak quickly turned into fury as they were led to believe a Root Clan cat was her killer. Even though neither of them are big fans of Hushstar, it's hard for them to be logical through their rage. They want vengeance for Twigleaf's unfair death, and they'll do anything to get it. Burnett Shade especially, as her fierce nature means she's gotten statuses both years that she does battle training at least once a week. Medicine Cat or not, she's joining the battle and getting her revenge. Conquer Skip has done a little bit better, but not much. He's made friends with the new apprentice to the point of hoping they'd get trained together and help out in the medicine den when they were recovering from a broken leg. But even his friends can only help so much with how he feels. They don't get it. None of the other cats his age have lost siblings, and he's lost 2. They don't understand that he won't be okay until Twigleaf gets the justice she deserves. Daisy Spike is next, and he's not exactly had the greatest year either. He's still an absolutely nervous wreck, and it doesn't help that his safe haven is the medicine den was invaded by Hushstar for most of the year. He's been more than eager to do the jobs the other medicine cats don't want to do. Cobweb gathering, moss gathering, he'd do it if it meant he didn't have to be in the clan for a little bit, especially after a new loner named Berlioz joined the clan, who, after his kids got a little older, I realized is absolutely Daisy Spike's father. Talk about a family reunion, they don't get along at all. Berlioz is a huge fan of Hushstar's violent ideals and wasn't exactly dad of the year, because I'm thinking he dumped baby Daisy in the clan he was originally from. Now that they're reunited, Berlioz hasn't said a word to him. Nor has he told the two kits that Daisy Spike is their big brother. Daisy Spike hasn't either. He's too anxious to even think about approaching them. This led to him spending more time outside the camp, and in that time having a bit of a fling with a kitty pet outside the clan. She had two kits, Hey Kit and the unfortunately named Root Kit. He was ready to leave the clan behind to be with her and the kits, but she was taken by her two legs when they moved away, leaving him all alone. Because of this, he had no choice but to take the kits back to Hound Clan. He can't leave the camp as much anymore with two kits in the nursery, and even though that stresses him out to no end, he deals with it. He wants to shield his kits from the clan as much as he can until they're a little older, and then they can hopefully make a run for it. His only relief right now is that because he's a medicine cat, he won't have to be on the front lines like the other queens are being forced to. He couldn't bear for his kits to lose both their parents so young. The Lonesome Tiger Sore is next cat in line, and you may have noticed a theme here, but we have a lot of single cats who have brought kits back to the clan. I may have to turn that setting off, at least for a bit, because while I love the new generations, there's too many babies. I don't want to have to do an extinction event anytime soon. He also just popped into camp with her, so he's a dad now. But beyond the joys of parenthood, he's also had a pretty rough year. He and his siblings not only lost their adoptive sister Russet Dawn, but also the other thing happened, which I won't get into just yet. I'm sorry to keep teasing. He also lost his mentor, who was forced into the position of deputy, and although he still had her to talk to, I think he suddenly felt much more disconnected afterwards, especially with Hushstar in the medicine den. He still hasn't told a soul about what Cliffdazzle did, and isn't sure if he can ever tell now. It feels like around every corner someone is watching and listening, and with how paranoid Hushstar is, he's terrified that telling now would be twisted into him being a part of it. During this haze of fear and uncertainty, he accidentally ate deathberries while gathering them and got poisoned. I think this is where he met his mate, who maybe helped him get well enough to get back to camp. He thankfully survived, but that was way too much of a close call. Other than that, he's been rather lonesome. With how busy everyone is, nobody shares prey with him, and he gifted himself the cicada wings he wears. He even does most of his patrols alone. He did get visited by a StarClan cat on patrol once, which I think was either his father or his sister, which cheered him up a bit. After that, he was seen arguing with a medicine cat from Root Clan, and returned to camp with a single kit a moon later, which the game said is half-clan. Considering the rule in Root Clan about medicine cats having kits, and the current war brewing between them, the kit is probably safer here, but this has made a lot of cats look at Tigersaur with far more suspicion. He's been fumbling a lot more because of it, to the point that Cliffdazzle was watching him with a sly smile from the dark forest. "Excuse me, evil lady, get away from him! Let this poor boy and his daughter have some peace. In fact, extend that to the whole Furflame family." Cosmos Fern is next, and he also decided to hop aboard the having random kits train, as he brought 3 kits to camp and refused to talk about where they came from. His year started out pretty good. His apprentice Hazelpaw became Hazelstorm, and he was seen talking to a cat from another clan, whom I'm guessing is the mother of his half-clan kits. He also, along with Willowthrift, was one of the cats who was the most encouraging to Olivepaw as he started to become his own cat, which means his death really hit hard. So did Russet Paws, as Cosmos Fern was also her mentor. Russet Dawn did go out saving another kit, but he still couldn't help but feel guilty about not protecting his apprentice. He and Willowthrift are still great friends, and he was very helpful in encouraging Willowthrift to ask out the cat he'd fallen in love with. More on that later, though. He felt pretty gloomy the same moon he brought his kits back, which I'm assuming is probably because of his feelings toward Hushstar. He wants to protect his kits and give them a safe place to live, but that's hard when he lives in a clan like Hound Clan. He also got sprayed by a skunk, which didn't help his feelings. Once he got back on patrol, he had been working very hard, and usually is one of the leaders of the patrols. He's also starting to see a certain cat in a different light, although he's not entirely sure about their intentions still. As for the upcoming war, he's obviously not a fan, especially because of his kids being part of the battle, but his kids don't really understand the gravity of the situation like he does. They're only 8 moons old after all. If he wants to keep them safe, he'll have to fight alongside them. Until he can find a way out, he'll do whatever he can to keep them safe. Next up is Willowthrift and his new mate, Furflame! I mentioned in year 1 that he had a crush on her, and yes, they got together! Also, most of the scars on Furflame were added by me because I didn't know what injuries she had from the fight with Hushstar except Claw Wound. And when she recovered, the game gave her a scar on her neck? Hushstar was 100% trying to kill her. If he still wants to, he thankfully hasn't been able to because of his whole dog situation. But that doesn't mean either of these poor cats have had a good year. They lost Russet Dawn, which was heartbreaking for both of them. Willowthrift is stepdad to the older 3, but he raised Russet Dawn with Furflame. To lose her like that was awful. Then, in an attempt to cheer both of them up while out hunting, he dared Furflame to join him on a little adventure by the two-leg nests. And then she got captured by Two Legs and taken away. Willowthrift was horrified and racked with guilt. That was his mate. He was supposed to protect her and his kit, and he lost both of them. Furflame, meanwhile, was a mess. After everything she's gone through, she was expecting to deal with more torment at the hands of Two Legs. But they actually treated her really well. Being pampered, pet, and spoiled by the Two Legs was more relaxing than she had expected, and she kinda liked it. But eventually she realized she couldn't stay. Even if she enjoyed the safety of being a kitty pet, she still had a mate and kits who needed her. She couldn't leave them to face a monster like Hushstar alone. So with one last nuzzle for her two-leg, she left and headed back to Hound Clan. A lot of the clan was super happy to have her back, especially her family. The loss of Russet Dawn would still hurt, but she had a mate to comfort her, and her kits now had their own kits who she could spoil. But even with all this happiness, there's still a level of fear with the upcoming war. Furflame hates it. She doesn't want more loss and violence, but standing up to Hushstar didn't exactly result in anything good last year. After nearly losing her family twice, can she really risk standing up to Hushstar again if no one else will stand up with her? Also, the bandana is not an in-game thing. I just drew it on her because she was taken by kitty pets and it looks cute. She deserves it, okay? Civet Stripe is a curious case this year. I can't seem to get a read on him. He's a Hushstar follower through and through. He admires the leader a lot and has been hoping Hushstar would see how dedicated he is all year. Obviously, that really hasn't had a chance to happen, you know, dogs. What has happened, though? This dude has a massive crush on Cosmos Fern. He is absolutely smitten. But here's the thing, Cosmos Fern hates him. It makes sense. Cosmos Fern and Civet Stripes are on opposite factions of the clan. They'd never work as a couple unless one of them switched sides, and Cosmos Fern would never. But he keeps surprising me. Not only did he randomly show up with Sorrel Kit and Sapling Kit one day, who were also half clan, that I really hope aren't from Root Clan like Oak Kit considering the current situation, but he also has been flip-flopping between his behaviors. Like one patrol Cosmos Fern was the leader of, and they stumbled upon a hungry and injured rogue, and instead of killing them or chasing them off, Civet Stripe helped them out, and showed them where to find food outside clan borders. Like, what? Part of me thinks he may only be doing this to try and impress Cosmos Fern, but I really don't know. Because he has to know that nothing will get Cosmos Fern to like him right now, short of publicly denouncing Hushstar. But he also invited the next cat to join a clan in a patrol with only Hushstar followers, so maybe it's a real change of heart? Except this cat is also a Hushstar follower now. Oh, Civet Stripe, please make sense for me! Other than that, he's had a good year. He is an apprentice, but they were injured for most of the year, so he's just been mainly doing patrols, and he's doing good on those. Not much to say about his parenting because they're literal newborns. He survived Yellow Cough, which was cool, but honestly, the only thing he really has going is his disaster of a love life. No wonder Claw Ash was judging him in StarClan. The charismatic Fudge is next, with her two kits, River Kit and Vine Kit. Like I mentioned above, she was found injured and invited to join by Civet Stripe. After her mangled leg healed, the first thing she did was follow in the paw steps of most other cats this year, and had some half-clan kits. Great StarClan, as I'm writing the script, I realize I definitely need to turn that setting off. Beyond her kits, she hasn't really done much. She made everyone laugh with a funny joke, and she lost something and every other warrior offered to help find it. So I think she's the kind of cat who makes herself someone everyone loves, and sticks to whatever side will give her the best chance at survival, and right now that's Hushstar. But then again, she was a loner before, so she probably has no idea how awful Hushstar is, since she joined when he was dealing with Dog Attack 2 Electric Boogaloo. I'm leaning more towards this too because Olive Blaze was wanting to warn her in StarClan. She spent nearly every other moon beyond that one trying to set a good example for younger cats, so I think she has deputy goals, because they would put her in a position of power, which grants her and her kits more safety. She's not the most enthused about the upcoming war, but if the battle gains her more respect and power, she might as well be a part of it. It's not like she really has a choice anyway, not that she realizes that just yet. She thinks she has everything all under control, but Hushstar may be a little more brutal in battle than she's prepared for. Berlioz is next. I mentioned him a bit earlier in Daisy Spike's segment. He is Daisy Spike's strict bio-father who doesn't have the best opinion of his son at all. He sees his nervous child as a disgrace who doesn't know a single battle move and would rather hide like a mouse than fight like a cat. Because of this connection, he doesn't give Daisy Spike even the time of day, and hasn't told his two other sons about their biological brother. That doesn't mean he's the best dad to them either. He definitely favors one over the other, for a number of things I'll get into later. Beyond his deadbeat dad status, he's also one of the ones encouraging Brown Rapid to be more harsh and more like Hush Star, which thankfully she doesn't listen to other than to yell at him when he was arguing on patrol, which I found very poetic. And now that I think about it, is probably why he doesn't like her. He really respects Civet Stripe and Hornet Dusk, and was proud of his kits when they were apprenticed to them. He was also on the patrol where Cosmos Fern got skunked, and thought it was really hilarious. Yeah, he doesn't have many fans outside the Hush Star group. He also spent a lot of time lecturing, yelling, and insulting the younger warriors, policing their postures, and generally just being an obnoxious dude. He was super psyched for the battle, but he probably won't be a part of it as he's caught Yellow Cough. He's made sure only medicine cats who aren't Daisy Spike treat him, as he doesn't trust Daisy Spike to be good at anything, so he's another reason this poor guy can't feel comfortable in his own den. I'm not sure when he'll recover, or if he'll recover, because Olive Blaze has seen his future demise, which doesn't bode well for him, but we'll just have to wait and see for that. For now, he'll continue to be an obnoxious nuisance to pretty much every other cat in the clan. Hornet Dusk is next, and he's had a pretty good year. While he's not my favorite, I gotta say I'm very proud of him for not joining the Everybody Has Surprise Kits party that everyone else was a part of. Thank you so much, Hornet Dusk. Beyond that, he's just been as insufferable as ever, and is still a bad teacher. When Hushpaw suddenly started improving at his battle training and learning very violent battle moves, he didn't even bat an eye, and instead decided that this was because of his brilliant training and masterful mentor skills. Of course it was, what else could it be? So he was not surprised at all when he got a second apprentice, and although he can't really brag about this one since they aren't the leader's son, he can at least prove just how absolutely amazing he is. Cliff Dazzle wandered in his dreams at one point, but I think she quickly realized that the only thing he would be good at is being annoying and backed off. Tadpole Stripe also accidentally found himself in his dreams a few times, but considering he never met Tadpole Stripe, I think that just confused him. Other than all that, he's just spent most of the moons grooming and fussing about his appearance, and doesn't really pay as much attention to his apprentice as he probably should, especially now that there's a war on the horizon. He's just psyched to show off how amazing he is, and ready to tear some Root Clan pelts apart. He doesn't even really care about Twigleaf. He never even had one conversation with her. He's just excited for a chance to show off and shed some blood. Oh, Hornet Dusk, you are so obnoxious. Plumeria is up next, and she is troublesome and one of our new arrivals. Also, can you tell now that I'm starting to figure out Procreate a little better? I've been drawing on it for years and I just figured out how to select like this. What the heck? She joined the clan and quickly established herself as a fan of Hush Star. This support got her the chance to be a mentor for Beampaw, the son of one of Hush Star's closest allies. Considering her troublesome personality, I think she tends to use her favoritism and short stature to the advantage, but she also does have a soft spot to her. She loves kits and always stops whatever she's doing to take care of them or give a badger ride. But the next second she'll grumble about having to go on patrol or helping out the medicine cats. Through the rest of this year, she's been sparring with clanmates and hoping that Hush Star would notice her improvement. So I think she's also like Fudge and Hornet Dusk in wanting power and approval. But this desire for respect and power doesn't stop her from pulling pranks constantly to the irritation of everyone. I imagine one of these pranks is why she got her tail mangled by a fox. She recovered since then and it hasn't stopped her pranks, but they've slowed down since the announcement of the war. She'd much rather spend energy focusing on that, because if she proves just how skilled she is, she can get the approval she craves from Hush Star and possibly a promotion. All she needs to do is claw a few Root Clan pelts. Now we're on to the younger warriors, starting with Hatch Fox. I'm afraid I don't really have much to say about him, because unlike his two siblings, he's actually been pretty well behaved and kept to himself. No surprise kits, no mates, he doesn't even have any crushes. What he has been up to is that he became a mentor for Conquer Skip, and seemed to have been a good one. He's a little strict, but that comes from last year with his effort to prove himself. I wish I could say he got a break, but that would be a lie. Along with training his apprentice, he also lost his little sister, and thought for 5 moons that he lost his mother too. He also got yelled at by Brown Rapid, his sister-in-law, for starting an argument with Hush Whisper. With everything he's been through, he didn't want to push his own emotions on his siblings or bother them when they have kids to worry about. And now there's about to be a war. Hatch Fox feels even more overwhelmed than last year. He feels like he should be happy. He has his mother back, he has nieces and a nephew, and yet he feels so alone and terrified that at any moment it can all be taken away. He had hoped he could rely on his best friend, but Hush Whisper has been acting extremely odd. Every time he tries to bring it up, his friend ignores him or snaps at him. And he's worried. He knows something is wrong, and he's right. Because Hush Whisper has been training with Cliff Dazzle in the Dark Forest. And you may have guessed it at this point, but the insecure Hush Whisper is our murderer. But let's back up a bit. Firstly, this is another name suggestion from Kindra Cobridge, so thank you very much for that. Because of his insecurities, Cliff Dazzle was easily able to manipulate him into training under her. It gave him everything he wanted. His brother was no longer the favorite, he had his father's approval, he was no longer a failure, but eventually that wasn't enough. Cliff Dazzle began to whisper in his ear again, and he felt himself grow afraid. Was this really enough? He may have his father's attention now, but how could he keep it and gain status in the clan if it continues to be stuck in this strange split? He needed to instigate something, so he followed Twigleaf out of the clan and killed her by the Root Clan border, a plan suggested by Cliff Dazzle that worked out exactly how he hoped. With the war, he can prove his battle skills and maybe even become the new deputy if he plays his cards right. Even with all these plans, he still has doubts and fears. He's constantly wondering if he's doing the right thing before remembering that it's too late to change now. He has blood on his paws, there's no going back. And if Cliff Dazzle is right, this is the only way for him to get the respect he deserves. Cats like Hatchfox don't matter because they can't understand. And are they really his friends if they don't support him? He's ready to do whatever it takes to gain the approval of Cliff Dazzle and Hushstar, even if it means killing. Little does he know that he is merely a puppet for Cliff Dazzle's own plans, and she has one prepared for the battle happening in the near future. On a much lighter note, the next cat is the adorable Righteous Katie. He used to be a kitty pet, but was abandoned by his two legs by the side of the forest. They haven't been around very long, only 2 months, but they're an absolute sweetheart. He's nursing a huge crush on Tigersaur and spends as much time with him as possible. He also already had a near-death experience, with branches falling on him until Golden Paw and the other cats on the patrol were able to free him. None of this has stopped his cheerful attitude, though, nor his absolute adoration for Tigersaur. He has also endeared himself to Hatchfox very quick by joining them and telling ghost stories on a night patrol when Hush Whisper wouldn't. I think this means Hatchfox is totally their wing cat. He's also a big fan of the warrior code, but not to the same crazy degree as the older warriors. I think instead he learned about the code and realized just how bad Hushstar's rules and demands are, and has made him even more protective of the friends he's made. He's secretly relieved that Tigersaur will be healing instead of being on the battlefield, but also terrified for himself. This will be his first real fight, and it's part of a frickin' war against an entirely separate clan that has actual allies. Yeah, no pressure at all. Buckpaw is next. He's an adventurous and one of the 2 kits in Berlioz's litter. He's the one who made me realize that he and Daisy Spike are 100% siblings, and I think he's smart enough to realize this too, but he also sees how Daisy Spike and Berlioz look at each other and hasn't really wanted to bring it up. As for his own loyalties, he's kind of in between due to an incident as a kid. He escaped the camp and went on an adventure, only to be spotted by a venomous snake. He would have been killed if Russipaw hadn't shoved him behind her and taken on the snake herself. Her death haunted him for a long time, but also inspired him. To him, Russipaw was the true definition of a warrior. She was willing to sacrifice herself to save a member of her clan, even if that member has only been around for a few moons. It made him very dedicated to his training, to the point that when Hornet Dust turned out to be not the best teacher, he would spend time with other apprentices and their mentors to learn from them as well. He doesn't really care for the 2 sides of the clan, he just wants to be a warrior Russet Dawn would be proud of, and he doesn't need his dad when he has great friends in the younger apprentices and younger warriors. So when it comes to war, he's not in it for power, he's in it for justice, because he believes, like a lot of others do, that Root Clan really did do it. He just wants to do the right thing, and although he knows war won't bring Twigleaf back, it will at least send a message to the other clans that they won't allow needless murders in their clan. Oh, if only he knew. As for his dad, I imagine he doesn't really know what to make of it. His dad thinks he should be more vicious, but also doesn't talk to him because of his resemblance to Daisy Spike. He feels a little put out. He wants to have his father's pride, but his father isn't really acting like a true warrior in his mind. He's thought about talking to Daisy Spike too, but what if Daisy Spike is just as dismissive as his father? He isn't sure, and he isn't willing to risk it right now. Maybe after the war. And the charismatic Swamp Paw is the second of Berlioz's litter, and despite being injured most of the year, he's 100% the favorite child. Not only is he orange like his dad, but he is also a lot more eager to gain his father's approval, and supports Hushstar mainly because his father does. The reason for this is because, unlike his brother, he hasn't really had to face the dark sides of clan life. He was a kid who stayed by his dad's side, and he got injured right after his apprentice ceremony falling out of a tree, so he spent most of his time in the medicine den, and Civet Stripe can only teach him so much with a broken bone. Conquer Skip has been a great friend and kept him company all year, and his father visited as well. Buckpaw used to visit, but not anymore. Berlioz doesn't like it, and Swamp Paw can't really understand his goofy and yet somehow serious brother. He and Buckpaw don't really get along. Buckpaw is always rushing off to help out or explore. He never seems to sit still or do what their father wants, and surely their father knows what's best for them, right? After a nasty infection, he finally got better and spends most of his time with Berlioz, Conquerskip, and his mentor. And while he wasn't close with Twigleaf, as he was with Conquerskip, he knows his best friend is taking the loss of his sister hard. He promised Conquerskip he will do everything in his power to avenge the cat, and he'll shred some Root Clan pelts in the war to show them what happens when they mess with Hound Clan. I think he doesn't realize just how nasty this could get. He hasn't even seen how fast and sudden death can happen like Buckpaw has. He's been in camp basically his whole life. He only patrolled once, and that was herb gathering in the last moon of the year. He's not ready at all. But he thinks he is, and Hushstar doesn't care either way. Oh boy. Cosmos Fern's kits are next, and considering their age, I decided to just lump them all into one photo since they're siblings and have only been apprentices for a few moons. But they've all been pretty busy, starting with Golden Paw. He's childish, and I've decided to interpret this as a gloomy, bratty, Sasuke-ish child. He's an angsty boy, which fits considering his dad is Cosmos Fern. He keeps to himself, but also put thorns in another cat's nest. He was apprenticed to Hush Whisper, but immediately got Yellow Cough. I think he felt a lot of pressure because even if Cosmos Fern is not a Hushstar follower, he's still a very strong and talented warrior. That's a lot to live up to. Plus, Hush Whisper isn't exactly the best mentor. By the time he recovered from Yellow Cough, the murder had already happened, so Hush Whisper was already very busy thinking about other things. But Golden Paw did get a win. I mentioned it above, but he saved Katie after he was trapped under fallen branches, which got him a lot of respect and awe from the other cats in the clan. He really wants to be a respected warrior and be taken seriously, and he thinks he's on the right track. But he isn't sure if this war will do that. He knows how his dad feels, and he isn't sure if he feels the same or not. Either way, the idea of attacking other cats isn't something he really is keen about. Can he just be a really good hunter or den builder instead? He'd like that very much, thank you. Sporepaw the Adventurous is next. They were a menace of a kit, but in an adorable way. They bullied the other cats into playing with them, did their own thorn in the nest pranks, and also liked to hide in the medicine den. They loved to play with Swamp Kit, but Berlioz was not a fan of this connection and quickly severed it, as he saw Sporepaw as a bad influence and didn't want them around the only son worth anything to him. This really had an impact on them, and they became determined to be a stern, strong warrior that impressed their clan. However, their mentor, Hazelstorm, and his father quickly nipped that in the bud. They took him out on patrols and made him actually sit and relax for a bit so he could see there was more to life than pushing yourself too hard. They also gave him a good talking to about how he shouldn't change himself just so other cats would like him. He needs to be true to himself, and if that means Swamppaw isn't his friend, there will be plenty of other cats who will be his friend for who he really is. It was really cute because Cosmos Fern also curled up with him and washed him like he used to when they were a kid. They're so adorable. He chased out 2 rogues with his mentor and also made friends in Beamfog and Buckpaw, and is always trying to recruit the other apprentices on adventures, to which Buckpaw always agrees. Unfortunately, after the murder, he lost one of his friends after the elders were exiled and Beamfog went after his mother. He doesn't like this brewing war at all. He doesn't want any part of it, but he knows he has no choice but to fight. At the very least, he'll do his best to keep his family and friends safe, even if it means shedding some blood. Moorpaw's the last of the siblings, and her daring personality means she's also quite the troublemaker. Considering how all 3 of them are different versions of trouble, I'm starting to think Cosmos Fern was quite the handful when he was younger. He probably watches all 3 of them like, was I really like that? But in a fond way, not a jerk way like Berlioz. She's had deputy dreams ever since she was a kit, and of course Brown Rapid humored the little kit by letting her follow her around while she scheduled cats, and nodding very seriously to more kit suggestions for the next patrols. She got her Uncle Willowthrift as a mentor and bragged about it relentlessly, until she realized that being his niece doesn't mean he was going to go easy on her training. Surprise, surprise, she got scolded that same moon for reckless behavior, and considering this happened when Furflame was missing, I have no doubts that Willowthrift let her have it. She's a bit stubborn, though, and didn't learn her lesson. Or maybe it's more like she didn't want to. She's an apprentice now, not a kit for StarClan's sake. She knows what she's doing. Except she totally didn't, and disappeared for a few days, only to come back with a collar. She totally got cloud-tailed and snatched for a few days before she got back, and was very embarrassed about it. Moorpaw has settled down a bit since that scare and listens to Willowthrift a lot more, but she hasn't lost her spirit. She argued with Berlioz on patrol when he insulted her friend Buckpaw. She's also really admires Brown Rapid still, and had a status in one of the last moons that she would really like to become as great as her one day. Absolutely adorable. I think she's also volunteering to babysit Brown Rapid and Hazel Storm's kits, too. As for the war, I don't think she's a fan. She'll fight like everyone else. She has no choice, but she doesn't like it at all. She knows a thing or two about being stubborn, and Star's stubborn decision to go straight to war without even true discussions between clans, beyond throwing his elderly mediator at them, is only going to lead to more violence. All she wants is to get through the battle and for everything to stop being so tense and terrifying. Even getting kidnapped by Two Legs was less terrifying than the clan's current atmosphere. And we don't have any elders because, well, they're gone, so that's the entirety of Hound Clan. We got some drama, some murder, and so many babies. But we're not done just yet. We're going to war after all, so let's hear about the other two clans, starting with the one we're going to war with. Fun fact, all of these cats were drawn on my new tablet in Clip Studio Paint, the only ones I got to do before the car incident. I'm pretty proud of them, but I can't wait to practice more. The responsible Falling Star still leads with only 3 lives left, but he's not doing good in any sense of the word. Despite the strict clan rules against medicine cats having kits, he fell for the head medicine cat and had 2 kits with them. But tragedy struck their clan since. A horrific snowstorm that killed several cats, others kidnapped while desperately trying to find food, the death of his own son, and now this war? At this point, Falling Star believes his own foolish choices have cursed his clan in StarClan's eyes, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to redeem himself, even if it costs his life. Fire Fern is the responsible deputy, and he's suffering just as much. He lost 2 of his kits during the horrible winter and is still grieving them. Neither of them even got the chance to be apprentices. He and his mate's best friend was kidnapped by Two Legs and has also been missing for months. It feels like they lose everyone close to them. He only has 2 children still alive, and with the dwindling numbers in Root Clan, they're terrified of losing their children in a war they shouldn't have to fight. Whispering Beak is thoughtful, but these thoughts have been nothing but torment recently. She lost her son, and her other child may have to fight in a war. She wonders if this is all her and Falling Star's fault constantly, and prays every night that Hound Clan will leave them in peace. She's desperate and willing to fight despite her age if it means safety for her clanmates and redemption for her own actions. Puddle Honey is 100% Oak Kit's mother. It absolutely has to be her. Despite her confidence, I think even she knew how dangerous it would be to have a half-clan medicine cat kit in Root Clan. That and her brother was among those who died during the harsh winter. Hound Clan may be bad, but Tigersaur can keep a better eye on them than she could. She hoped that would be the end of it, but this war means she may have to face losing even more clanmates, and she doesn't know how much longer she can keep up her confident facade. Beaupaw is her apprentice, and considering his troublesome nature, he's also probably a secret keeper of sorts. I bet he knows all about the love affair, and even though Puddle Honey and Tigersaur are no longer together, he still keeps his mouth shut. His mentor is an amazing healer, and he knows she can teach him a lot still, and with the war going on, they need all the help they can get. If StarClan really wants her punished, they can do it themselves. He's one of the few cats to have not experienced tragedy this year, but the loss all around him is truthfully leaving him terrified of all the possibilities. Next, Mist Clan. The daring Snail Star has 6 lives left and is feeling less sure of himself this year. Mist Clan is also experiencing loss in great numbers, one of which was his beloved mate, and one of them was directly his fault. Falling Star has asked for his help, but he doesn't know if he can bring himself to join the fight. He knows Root Clan is in danger, and he wants to help his ally, but he's also terrified of drawing Hound Clan's wrath and causing more deaths. But he also doesn't want Root Clan to suffer any more than they already have. Flower Stem is the sneaky Mist Clan deputy, but if Mist Clan does show up to help in the battle, she most likely won't be there, as she's going to give birth to her kits at the beginning of Year 3. And unlike Hush Star, Snail Star doesn't force queens to join battles. He wants kids to have their parents as long as possible. She's instead staying with some of the other warriors, not only for her kits, but just in case the worst case scenario happens and they have to defend their home. Buzzard is the righteous head medicine cat, and honestly my favorite Mist Clan cat. He has 10 kids, but only 3 are biological. He's the resident queen in camp when he's not healing, and takes in any orphan kits as his own. He knows how much Root Clan is struggling, and although he knows Mist Clan has seen struggles too, he can't help but feel like helping them is the right thing to do. If only for the fact that Hound Clan needs to be stopped before any more innocent cats have to die. Sharpshade is ambitious, but also currently grief-stricken. 2 of her kits were kidnapped by Two Legs along with 1 other, and she's terrified for them. It's hard for her to focus on healing or the upcoming battle when she can only think of that lost clanmate, and if she'll ever get to see her daughter again. All she can manage to do right now is wonder why the last year has been so cruel. What did they do to deserve such suffering? The Righteous Pullback wonders the same thing, because the 3rd captured cat was his brother, and one of Sharpshade's kits was his brother's apprentice. He was very close to both of them, and the loss, especially one where they may never know if they're okay, has struck him to his core. But his mind is far more focused than Sharpshade's, and he wants nothing more than to help in this war. If it can save a life, at least that will be 1 more cat who will get to go home. And maybe one day his own family will come home too. Oh, so many cats. We're all done now. Root Clan and Hound Clan are going to war, and Miss Clan may be involved. And Rebel Clan? Who knows? I've created a battle generator for this upcoming battle, and since it happens at the beginning of the year, it means the next ClanGen video will also be Hound Clan, and it may be wildly different afterwards. I am absolutely terrified to use this generator because I tried to make it as fair as possible, which means everyone, including the leaders and medicine cats, have a chance to die. And oh, StarClan, that's terrifying. With that in mind, thank you guys for watching. Please comment if you enjoyed. Tell me your favorite cat. What do you think of the prophecy? Or give me a name suggestion. I'd love to hear it. I don't know yet when the next ClanGen vid will be out since the battle will also be part of it and I gotta draw that. But I'll do my best to work on it and practice with my new tablet too. It's good to be back, and with a working car too. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. Remember to take care of yourselves, prepare for battle, and have a great day.